Welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast, where we are good at mason jars and USB ports and predicting that Taylor would get booted. I'm John. My co-host is Andy. Andy, let's talk about the end of Figtails.
It's sad. Must be what it was like when Sam and Diane finally broke up.
Oh, I don't even know if that even qualifies as a Gen X.
I don't know either, I don't know why I even went there.
Might be a boomer thing. This is more like, you should have gone with like a Ross and Rachel breakup for the first time, although they get back together.
Yeah, see, I don't think that's gonna happen for Adam and Taylor. This isn't even Summer and Seth. I think this is the forever
Well, first
end.
of all, it's definitely not happening for Adam and Taylor.
You know what? They have a better chance than Taylor and Figgy.
That's a good point.
Yeah, well, how about that episode of Survivor?
When you consider that it was a relatively predictable episode, I actually got the boot prediction right. At least they managed to inject some entertainment into there. And they set up a few storylines for later, so that's good. I still think the preview might have been the best part of the whole episode, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed watching it. It didn't bother me or anything like that. But, I think as our commenter Gouis put it, this was a basic-ass episode of Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, you're not breaking any new ground here.
No, I mean, we got deep looks into, Brett's drinking habits and Hannah's skill at picking teams and that sort of thing. And we are going to discuss all of those things tonight, so I'm glad you tuned in, everyone.
Well, I will say that, if you were wondering what these people are like, this episode gave you much more of a glimpse into who they are as people rather than just constantly who's getting voted out. So, you get some idea of the people that we're dealing with here.
Yeah, but I mean, you say the preview might have been the best. I think the best was Tribal Council, so we should start there.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only other contender for the best moment.
Because, we had, as promised, I guess, in maybe Sunday commercials that I never saw, Electric Tribal Council. And, so we get the battle of Adam versus Taylor and Jay. What a battle of heavyweights.
Get hype.
And, I think, people have pointed out, I believe it was probably Kemper Boyd who first used this, but, basically Taylor and Jay were gaslighting Adam the whole time. And I think this is where, you and I probably differ with some of our more, maybe, soft-hearted, followers or something. Because, they took great offense and we're like, man, look at the way that Jay is gaslighting Adam. What a gangster he is.
I love how you're walking on eggshells talking about our commenters. Yeah, we are much more heartless. I obviously saw it hours before you, but I was like, this is awesome. They are just going at him. It's not going to really benefit them in any way, at least one of them in any way, but definitely enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, they had him on the ropes and then they just kept hitting him. Because, you're under no obligation to be nice to the guy. They had him on tilt. He wasn't good at coming back, in part because, he'd messed up. And, I actually feel like they didn't call him out enough on the right things, but it didn't matter. He came out of it looking terrible. And for, the person that survives Jay, I think this is somewhere where he can build. But, so I was actually impressed by what they were doing. I mean, more so with Jay than Taylor because, I'm always going to be a little more impressed by Jay than Taylor.
Of course.
And, I think some people, watch that. It's like, oh God, I've so been Adam. And for me, it's like, I'm Jay, right? Like, once you start winning an argument, I just keep pounding the person, right?
Or when you're losing an argument and you just keep talking louder and uninterrupted.
I don't feel like I've ever lost an argument, so I'm not sure what you're saying.
I know you don't. So, quick qualifier here. In fairness to Adam, Taylor and Jay had time to develop this whole strategy of how to attack him. They knew what they were going to do before Tribal Council. And even then, they didn't really have a flawless execution. As you mentioned, they clearly missed on some points that they should have hit a little harder. Having said that and gotten that nicety out of the way, damn, Adam was terrible. So bad.
Yeah, in all the ways. I actually watched it again. And I think what bothered me most about Adam is not just that, he failed because, everything was crumbling in front of him and he couldn't take it. That's, human. That's understandable. Is how indignant he got about all of this when dude, you messed up. This is on you. And sure, there was lies, but I don't think your lack of eating the food, makes you innocent the way that Adam seemed to think.
Right. I mean, how does that absolve you of anything? It's not like you sold him out to anybody else. You clearly didn't tell anyone else about your advantage. There was just a litany of things that they put out on the table. And I guess he thought since, he held up his end of the bargain and didn't rat on Taylor and, he didn't eat the food, this somehow put him in a class above. It got him at least 3 days more than Taylor, though.
Yeah, in part because they already came in with the plan to vote out Taylor. But yeah, no, his whole, I didn't eat the food. Oh, congratulations. Because, it's not a crime to be an accessory to things. It's like, sorry, Your Honor, I saw my coworkers steal all that money, but I hung out with them while they were doing it, but I didn't spend it, so...
I let him buy me a few things, but...
And I didn't tell anybody about it, so we're cool, right? How do you not see that this is a mistake? And that's why there's a problem with... Why I have a problem with it more is how indignant it is. When David, says, this was the final nail in the coffin for one of them, which, it was Taylor who he was talking about, but David understands that the television wants you to have some suspense. So he threw in that second for one of them, and Adam just gets this huge stink on his face. What? Why me? It's because of what you did, dude. You somebody stole the food. That guy is worse. But you didn't tell everybody, hey guys, all this food we're supposed to be eating together, here it is over here. Let's go get it because that's a shared good. You're just like, nah, this is my opportunity to form this unbreakable bond with Taylor. And I know a lot of people have been speculating, what would they say if you were Adam and then they were in this situation? And more so about, what would you say if Taylor told everybody about your advantage? I gotta say, I'm not playing that game. I'm gonna be more like Earl Cole here, and I wouldn't be in that situation.
Right. We have to remember, Adam got himself in this situation. And again, it was a week ago in game time.
Well, actually, in game time, I think it was 3 days ago. Because this was last episode.
Even earlier than that, when he started after the Figgy vote, just going to grovel to Taylor for some reason. Very poorly. But again, he's been digging this hole for a long time.
But yeah, and it's if you have this advantage, you're under no obligation to tell anybody, but the only person you tell can't be Taylor. If you're Hannah, if you're Zeke, it's why the hell does he know this? Why don't we? That is a betrayal.
Yeah, exactly. How is Taylor somehow your best ally that you were willing to tell this and none of the rest of us knew? And that's going to be a topic of discussion when they get back to camp. Okay, how many of you guys knew about Adam's advantage? None of you? Great. So I guess we know where we all stand with Adam then.
Yeah, only Jay can raise his hand at that point. He just totally messed this up, and he deserved to get, this is why, maybe, just possibly, you don't share all of your deepest secrets with the person who is most likely to be the most pissed off person at you. So I'm just putting that out there, that maybe, terrible decisions like that might have consequences. And if you're gonna do that, then, maybe you don't try to vote that person out.
At this point, I almost want to see Adam in front of the final tribal council jury. He's going to make Amanda look good by comparison.
Yeah, because, forget of how bad he performed in this exact moment, because as you say, he was blindsided by it. Think of every time he's come back from tribal council and had to talk to somebody about it. He is awful. Because, that's what, 3 out of 9 jurors always want to hear. It's why did you vote for me? And he's just going to be it's true. I totally screwed you. That was me. You're sitting there in front of the jury instead of where I am, because of what I did. I did that.
Exactly. And I think he feels because he's being truthful and somewhat apologetic, I think he thinks that's going to go over well and people are going to respect that and like it. But it's just such a bad read.
Yeah, Adam strikes me as somebody who, is obviously, a big fan of Survivor, has probably debated and gone back and forth on the boards of all the different moves, and this is what you need to do. And if you're gonna do this move, then you really have to watch your social connections. And he has it all in his head, but he doesn't have, the skill, And, I think a lot of times to be good at these things, it just has to be something you're good at. Knowing and doing are different animals altogether. And I think that's, it's reflected in when he's trying to go back to Taylor and mend fences, but he doesn't know how. He lacks the social grace of how to do that, but it's he knows he needs to do this. I can't have Taylor mad at me, so I'm gonna have to explain to him. And if I just own up to things and everything will be fine. But yeah, it's this isn't about you and your feelings. You have to let other people feel things. And yeah, it's the same reflected in how he thought that not eating the food kept him totally in the clear, in people's eyes.
Well, not only that, he thought he was successful in getting Taylor back on his side. Like he thought all along that he's been doing the right thing. He hasn't realized that his mending fences and his social game isn't as strong as he thinks it is.
Yeah, and even with his advantage, he was getting all huffy about Taylor talking about taking away the family visits. You know why Taylor's talking about that, right? Because that was literally the example you gave him. Taylor didn't come up with this on his own. And then he's like, what? And not my favorite. Yeah, I loved it all. But when he was like, that's not an advantage in the game, or that's separate from the game, and in the shot, so this isn't just, like a phantom edit. Brett, recoils at that idea, what the hell are you talking about, dude? Of course that's the game. You're gonna take my family visit away from me?
Because again, Brett is also a super fan and is probably picturing somewhere along the line, oh, he's going to have his family come out and visit him, and now Adam's going to steal this away from him. To him, it's probably a real thing. He's probably, as a big fan, he got cast and he's like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to make the family visit. My whoever, mom, significant other, brother, whoever it might be, is going to come out and be so happy. It's going to be great. Now he can actually picture Adam taking that away from him.
Yeah, and the fact that Adam doesn't see that as a threatening thing for people, just what? So yeah, Adam was just completely awful in that situation. And I think we credit Taylor and Jay for making him look bad. I do think they missed some lines of attack, specifically highlighting that not telling people about this missing food is, a betrayal in itself. But was this too late? Doing it at Tribal, is that the way to go or no?
No, I mean, it was obviously too late. In this specific example, we can see the result that it was too late. But I have to feel like he already knew he was gone anyway. And so at that point, the only advantage to doing it at Tribal Council is that everyone is there and, it's a big moment, quote unquote, and you hope maybe something will happen. But really, again, it's just because everyone's gathered there that it makes it easy to do it. And maybe, Probst lights some fires and helps things along. But the odds are that no one's going to change a vote at Tribal Council. It's just too hard to redirect the vote.
Yeah. Well, or not enough people will change, because I actually think there's a potential that some people may have changed, but to Taylor. Not to Adam, obviously. I think, to save Taylor, this was too late. But I'm not sure that you could, for one, we don't know the chronology of time. Maybe there was literally no time to do it between the time that, Jay received this information to Taylor and the time they needed to go vote. But more than that, it's not something that Jay could just go up to Sunday and tell her, because why would you believe him? You've already told him that, he might be going home tonight, that it's, him or Taylor. There's nothing we can do about it. And now he's concocted this wild story that Adam has an advantage that nobody's ever heard of before. In the history of Survivor, has never happened. And, it's this big threat. It would sound fake to me. So it would need to be exposed in front of a lot of people, including Adam. You need to do what they did, is put Adam on the spot so that he reveals it. But in order for it to have been effective in saving Taylor, it would have had to have been before Tribal Council.
I wonder if it actually would have been more successful to think up an advantage that was actually better than what Adam had, and then have him say, that's not my advantage, my actual advantage is X.
That's horrifying too!
Right. So I wonder if that actually would have worked better. Either way, it made for an entertaining Tribal Council, even if it didn't help Taylor at all.
So the last element in, Jay's performance is, he voted for Taylor and didn't use his idol. That's kind of ballsy, huh?
So much so. I feel like he had to know, right? Because that's a lot of risk to shoulder.
Yeah, I don't think he went in just coin toss 50-50, maybe it's Taylor and I'm just not going to play it. I think he had reason to believe that Taylor was getting the majority of votes, and I imagine those reasons probably entail Sunday telling him that. Or somebody else, but Sunday's the person that we saw him speaking with. But I don't think he knew for sure. Yeah, there was a risk taken. But in that respect, if he has an idea that there is a good chance Taylor's going to get more votes and that I can goose that by adding my vote to that pile, and Taylor isn't going to do the same for me, then I think it's a risk worth taking, because he's on the bottom. He needs to survive as many votes as possible. If you don't have that level of assurance, and I don't think we'll ever know if he did, other than exit interviews or something, then,
Right.
Save yourself when you can and hope the rest works out later. But I feel like he probably had enough reason to believe that Taylor was the primary target.
I would have been more convinced that he was fine if Will had voted with him.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was really weird because I assumed that A, Will was a pocket vote for for Jay anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And B, that was the reason that Jay didn't play his idol, because he knew Taylor was getting 2 extra votes from him and from Will. But instead, Jay got an extra vote from Will.
Yeah, no, and that's why I feel like somebody like Sunday, who actually ended up voting for Taylor, even though in the episode, she is agreeing to vote for Jay, at least in that, circle. Who knows if by the end of that conversation they reconfigured it or whatever. Must have said, I'm supposed to be voting for you, but I'm going to go for Taylor. And then I suppose another thing is if you're like a person that rolls the dice and gambles, maybe following the tribal council, when Taylor just admitted to stealing everybody's food, you're thinking, yeah, they're probably going to vote for him tonight.
That's entirely possible. I mean, she might have agreed to vote Jay and then thought that tribal council gave her cover to switch her vote.
Yeah, I didn't see the way that Ken voted, but I could see like him being somebody who, like, if he had gone in, agreeing that it was going to be Jay, being like, nope, it's got to be Taylor now. He has offended my value system.
Because he is the evolutionary Andrew Savage.
Yeah, exactly.
He lacks moral character. I can't have this man around anymore.
Exactly that, yeah. I do think Ken, at some level, is playing that way, and like kind of an emotional, morality as I define it type way. But in the other ways, I mean, I don't know. He's barely on the show anymore.
They did get a killer shot of those abs, though.
That's all the Ken we need if they're only going to give us a bit. And I do think there's something to the idea, and this isn't mine. I cribbed it off of our comments, I believe from Rhea, that like, maybe you just don't sully Ken with the tawdry goings-on of this episode.
Yeah, then there was enough else going on that he could be background scenery.
Yeah, like, I actually don't mind that, like, nothing in this episode might tell us who the winner is, because it was just a bunch of failure. I mean, unless the winner is Jay, which I'm not ruling out. But yeah, it's like, this is a story of 2 idiots going head to head and seeing who can, fail more. And the answer is both.
We should clarify, like, I don't think Adam's an idiot. He's just really bad at Survivor.
No, I think he's a perfectly nice kid. He's a smart guy in real life. That don't mean nothing. Plenty of people are stupid at Survivor. It's a hard game, and harder than we think it is watching at home, creating all our rules. So is he doomed?
It looks really, really bad. I think that the key thing here is that when Jay went to complain about Adam, Zeke and Hannah were super quick to jump in and be like, yup, and pile on. Like, it wasn't just, one of those things where you just agree just to end the conversation or, shut that line of thinking down. It was like if someone said to me, like, oh, Andy never shuts up on the podcast. And I just said, yeah, and here's some examples. So I clearly agree with that.
Well, it'd even be that. It would be if somebody was saying it to, like, Matt. And you just walked in on the conversation. It's like, oh, do I have lots to talk about? Like,
oh, we're talking about Andy? Hang on, I got stories.
Yeah, like Hannah wasn't in the conversation. Until she popped in, I wasn't even clear if she was there. But as soon as she's like, oh yeah, Adam, that guy's an idiot. Or asshole, I think, or whatever it was. And then Zeke's like, oh god, I was thinking about voting him out before. Like, they were on it. They were like, thank God we're talking about this.
And props to Survivor. Again, we comment on the show and how well it's produced and edited all the time. The way that scene was set, where we didn't know Hannah and Zeke were there, and we, like, cut back, and now we see Hannah, and then we come back, and now we see Zeke there too, and it's like, oh, I thought they were just having a private conversation. But this was so important that Hannah and Zeke had to jump in and get their 2 cents.
And this was before they heard about all this betrayal. So yeah, I think Adam is doomed. Out of the 11 people still left in Survivor, I think he has like the 12th best chance at winning. Like, I literally think people would write Michaela down before they would write down Adam. Because like, why would you want to be his, in an alliance with him at this point? What value does he offer you?
A goat, maybe. Like, I think he was so focused on getting Taylor as a potential goat that he didn't realize that he's kind of headed down that path himself.
Yeah, but how do you, like, talk to him about strategy? You can't trust him with anything. Last episode, or yeah, I believe it was last episode, they were already talking about, like, this should be simple, but Adam wants to play with the cool kids, and now they have confirmation. Now, one note there is, like, maybe the Adam wants to play with the cool kids thing is actually audio from, like, days that haven't happened yet, but, like, yeah, I just wouldn't trust him to not screw everything up for me. Like, I think he's, like, a guy you just gotta cut bait with. But, yeah, maybe he could go to the end because people realize he's never gonna get any votes. That is also a way of being doomed. No, he's not going to get any votes. Because, as you say, not only does everybody have a bad opinion of him, and in a way that's just going to snowball. People don't typically look for ways to come around on somebody in the game of Survivor. It's like, oh, I really want to give this guy a fair chance. But we've seen how he talks to people when he's trying to convince them of his ways. It's not pretty.
Well, let's talk about one of the ways that he talked to people, because that Jay conversation that I'm mentioning is happening right after Jay talks to Adam, and Adam is telling Jay, hey, yeah, you are on the bottom. And I think he thought he's just being completely honest, and Jay will respect that, but it comes across so dismissively, and Jay took it that way as well. He's like, oh, Adam's just putting me down and making fun of me and my position in the game. Adam's doing what he thinks is the right thing, but you have to at least fake some empathy there, which is why I'd suck at this game, because I can't do that either, so I really shouldn't throw stones. But when you're saying, oh yeah, you're on the bottom, you need to say, like, I really feel bad for you, but yeah, I think you're probably the next target, versus the dismissive, like, oh god, of course you're at the bottom.
Yeah, and I think, you say fake some empathy. I think the issue is empathy is something that you can't fake. I think Adam was faking empathy. He just does it really badly. It's people that are probably like, oh, Jay's just being butthurt. Sure, of course, yeah. That's what people are like. And if you're good at Survivor, you, don't rub it in. You recognize this person is probably a little sore. Either I could just not talk to them, or I will try to smooth it over. But you don't try to rub it in. You don't be dismissive of, their thoughts and, feelings and agency within this game. And that's the way Adam was being. Was he intending to be that way? I don't believe so for a second. But, it's how you come off to people that's important. And clearly that's how he came off to Jay. And nobody disagreed with his Jay's sentiment when he was done with it. That's all the confirmation I need to say that Adam not so good at the people stuff in this game. And I'll say, like, I was on this a while ago. I flagged this when, they were still on the Millennial tribe, and he was talking to Michaela about strategy and how they have to go after Figgy and all of these reasons. And then it's like, he's laying out strategy and all sounded good, but it's like, you're talking to her like she's stupid, dude.
Yeah, like I said, I can see Adam making it to the end at this point, but not for the reasons that he hopes he'll make it to the end.
So I guess the other thing about him is that advantage that's out there now. What should he be doing with it?
As soon as he found that advantage and saw how worthless it was, he should have just told everyone about it right then and there, and they could have all laughed, and he could have thrown it in the fire and burned it. I think our commenter Violina pointed that one out. Like, really, at Tribal Council, he should have just been like, yeah, I'm gonna just toss this into the fire because it's worthless anyway.
I mean, to that point, the thought I had when I read that, and Black Dynamite also had it, I'm sure he didn't bring it with him. It's not a Tribal Council thing, right?
That's certainly true. But at the same time, it's so worthless. And if you don't realize that it's not worthless. It's a negative for your game. And if you don't realize that, then you're probably bad at Survivor. I think they even asked Probst about it today in an interview. And he was like, oh, on Survivor, we try a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. I think he's basically admitting, like, yeah, this is pretty garbage. We just wanted to see if anyone would use it.
No, it's a trap. It doesn't mean that,
yes.
People say, oh, why'd they give him such a bum thing? I think they were trying to mess with people and see who takes the bait. And what's interesting is I don't know if Taylor was going to take the bait. Like, he seemed to recognize that this was a garbage thing. And he steals food.
See, I feel like he, at that point, knowing that he's on the bottom and he's already stealing food anyway, why not?
Oh, he would have done it, for sure, but he recognized, like, when it's like, it's not part of the game, and Taylor, in his, very, zen and wise ways, it's in your head, it's in your heart. Which to me is, stupid, because he's stupid, but it's also, it's not smart to do that to people. So it was a trap, and Adam fell for it. But, now it's out there. And I do think it's going to paint the target on your back. If I was out there, I'd be a little worried. Like, man, if I won this challenge, I have to be like, do I still have it?
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's, something cool you're gonna go see. You're gonna fly in a helicopter and you're gonna go see Fiji and you're gonna get all this food and, you'll get a bed or something like that. And then Adam's like, no, actually, on second thought, you're not, because I'm gonna take that. That worry's gotta be in the back of your mind.
Yeah, because, like, what if you had to, like, really work hard to get that, too? It's like, well, shit, I could have just quit.
Yeah, what if it was, a 3-hour challenge, you're standing on some beam and your back's killing you and your, feet are on fire and, you're exhausted. And then after the end of all of that, Adam's like, no, actually, it's me. Yeah, you're gonna be pretty pissed.
So I would see that as like a threat, like, we need to get rid of this guy. So, yeah, what does Adam do with that now? Because I think it's too late to be like, oh, guys, I'm just putting this in the fire. I mean, maybe he should just do that anyway, because it's like deleting a bad tweet. We know there's screenshots out of there, but I just gotta take it away anyway, so no future damage, can easily come to me.
Right, try to mitigate the disaster.
You're not gonna score any points. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, great, Adam, you did everybody's gonna be like, too late, Weasel, we know. But at least that target is removed. So that's one option. I think the other option is, he's gotta play it right away. And I will say one thing that could help him there. I mean, I don't think anything's gonna help him. I think the kid is doomed. But, mitigate it. He's the only person or maybe, I don't know if he's the only person, but he has not received a single food reward yet. So, he could just be like, I'm gonna eat, guys. And I know and they're already mad at me anyway, so I'm gonna use it now before it can be used against me as a reason to vote me out. Of course, the flip side is maybe they vote you out because they're pissed at you. And take, like, Jay's advantage, reward away or something like that.
So, the other option is, yes, play it right away, but doing so because you're trying to draw votes on you and then you play your idol.
There you go. That's something. That might be the best of the bad choices available to him, yeah.
Exactly. It's all terrible choices for him. Yeah. But that might be the way. Like, guarantee that the votes are going to come your way and then play the idol.
Yeah, no, it's like we said before. It's like, what would you do if you were confronted in this situation? It's like, I would not be in that situation. I would never have told Taylor that I had this advantage. So, I'm not going to bother figuring that out. I'm just going to revel in, the chickens coming home to roost.
So let's instead talk about, Jay though, because Jay was once again very entertaining.
Yeah, no, I like this kid. I do. I think he's not all the way there. I'm not going to sit there here and say he's an awesome game player, but the potential is there. And I also contend he's much better than a lot of people are giving him credit for. I think a lot of it is like he talks like a surfer because he's a surfer and he hangs out with surfers. But one thing that struck me in this episode is how much differently he speaks when he's with Taylor than he does with other people.
Yes, exactly. He knows to kind of speak to his audience. And that's a social skill. He's really good at it.
Yeah, so some of those people that he was speaking with this episode, and this is a good contrast, like, compared to the way Adam was, he had to talk to Hannah, who, cast a vote, not against him, but against his interest in voting out Michelle. And she didn't walk away thinking that Jay was an asshole.
No, and exactly. I think he kind of like tried to butter her up and say like, good job. Give me a high five. Try to make her feel like one of the cool kids, like a feeling she might not have had before. Like he recognizes what people need. And I think when he went to speak to Sunday, it was the same sort of thing. I think he talked to her like, hey, I need help. You're a mom, help me out, that kind of a thing. And I think that's a good social read because Sunday is a nice person. She probably wants the opportunity to take care of people or help people. So you give her what she wants. And I think he's shown in this episode, he's really skilled at certain types of social interactions.
Yeah, and he wasn't dictating terms to her. He was recognizing her power and letting her know that he recognizes it. So it's like, hey, what you tell me. She wanted to get information from him, like, who do you think you should vote out? And he flipped it back on her. No. Who do you think? Because I'll do what you say.
And I should point out too that he essentially tried to have this same sort of conversation with Adam, and he was like, hey, good move. You got me. You're a big power player or whatever. And Adam just straight up runs away from that and is like, no, I didn't even control the vote at all.
Yeah. I just had to do that to save my own butt. Oh, okay. Never mind then. But you are screwed. You are on the bottom, and I helped do that to you.
Yeah, not to pile back on Adam again.
No. That's basically the only thing I really truly care about this episode is that everybody walks away realizing that Adam is terrible at Survivor. And yeah, the fact that he is on the internet more doesn't change anything about it.
I'll tell you this, I'm not feeling really confident in my Adam winner pick right now. It's funny, just a week ago I was like, I'm going to hold the line on it because I don't think there's necessarily... He hadn't screwed up so bad yet, and there wasn't anybody that was jumping out to me as like, oh, this is a clear leader of the pack. There's a lot of people I think that are doing well that could contend. So I was like, I'll just ride with Adam. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? And now,
and then he found out. Yeah, that was completely fell apart due to a concentrated attack by other sides. So no, I think just those two scenes, which were in there. I think it's important that they were in there. The Sunday one, I think you can write off as creating red herrings to make the vote a little less predictable. But I think the Hannah one is telling. Obviously because our fans are who they are. God bless them. We love them. They interpreted that the scene was about Hannah. Maybe because I am who I am. I interpret that scene was about Jay.
And who was it that made the comparison? Was it Matt that compared Jay to Marquesas Boston Rob?
Well, it was Sharkules because he's at a earlier time zone than me because I was like wanting to do it.
Yes.
He typing catted me.
And I think that's a really good comp because he's not a polished Survivor player. Like there's potential there though.
Yeah, and like people walked away from Marquesa thinking that Boston Rob was like a dumb meathead, right? Like again, and I think there's going to be plenty of people who walk away from that with Jay. I think Jay, like fans will be, people are talking about it. We are talking about it. Other people are talking about it. So he will maybe have a little bit more of a target, but yeah, I think he has Rob-like potential because he's just good at talking to people. And yeah, sure, he doesn't sound like a super intelligent person, just like, Boston Rob didn't, because, his R sounds are A's, but there's some things there. And also, as Adam has shown, being a super intelligent person doesn't necessarily translate to be good at Survivor. So.
Right, exactly. It takes a lot more like emotional intelligence than, being able to run numbers in this game.
So yeah, I guess we should talk about the person that went home a little bit.
I guess the like downgraded version of it, basically what I thought Jay might have been when he came into this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of surprising thoughts on Taylor. People don't need to be girding themselves for like a contrarian take. He's a dumbass. I mean, mostly a harmless dumbass, but like he's the reason why I think Probst was like excited about this season in many ways, because like this is what they wanted to say about Millennials, Taylor.
Yeah, and I think he filled that role very well. He was fine. I mean, he provided a useful narrative purpose for a while. There was a story about him. He had a little entertainment value in there. I mean, I don't know that you need much more from Taylor. Like, he's not really a strategic mastermind. Like, he was pretty bad at Survivor, but not catastrophically so, like a Drew Christie type. He was a representation of Millennials, and a very good one.
Yeah, well, the stereotype that they wanted to portray.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. The very narrow definition of Millennial that Probst had in mind.
Yeah, like, he doesn't have a care in the world, he's not going to be tied down to things, he goes with what he feels and moves on,
He probably hooks up and doesn't use bar soap.
Yeah, he's just, he's at one job for a few months and then leaves. He's not, you have to make Millennials motivated in different ways in the workplace. Otherwise, they're not tied down to these traditional ideas.
Yeah, he was stealing food because that's just a Millennial thing to do.
Yeah, he certainly isn't, somebody who feels like life is always going to work out for him due to the extreme privilege that he has being, a straight, cis, white male that's, relatively attractive and fit. That has nothing to do with
it. Look at you pandering to our audience.
Well, I kind of win them back sometimes.
Yeah.
No, it's because he's a millennial. No. The one thing I wanted to say is, Taylor, now that I've warmed up my audience, I think he's a better Survivor player than Adam. And I want people to not do that thing that they always do whenever we say that Nicaragua is like the worst season ever, and people are like, how is that possible when Redemption Island exists? Saying one thing is worse than another thing is not saying that other thing is good. I'm not saying at all that Taylor is good at Survivor. He is very bad at Survivor. However, it seemed like he instinctually understood some things about Survivor that Adam couldn't process, which is, you don't steal loved ones' visits from people. You try to get along. Think of the conversations that Adam and Taylor had, and who seemed more in control of in those conversations? It was always Taylor. But from the post-Figgy vote out, when Adam is, just digging his own grave, Taylor sat there calmly. He didn't just, freak out at the guy. And then in the whole, when Taylor the dumbass is eating food, he just sits there and like goes, Well, Adam spills all his guts. So yeah, I think actually, as tempting as it is, like, Taylor is an idiot, doesn't know anything about Survivor, he was better at it than somebody out there.
What a high bar. So let's talk about Sunday, because we actually saw Sunday in an episode, which I feel like hasn't happened since probably the premiere of the season. Sunday is seemingly inexplicably targeting Jessica. What was your read on that one?
I mean, I understood the explanation, I'll say that. And I think some people are, because she's barely been on the show and Jessica has only marginally been on it more, that it does feel left field. But her point was that from the vote all the way back when Lucy went home, the majority of the votes were cast for Jessica in that tribal council. And Sunday is the most likely person that Jessica would feel most betrayed by. And the reasoning is, Ken voted for her because she ignored Ken's attempt to save her. So Jessica rightly said, my bad, and, patched up that relationship. Brett and Chris were still stung by them voting out Paul. So you kind of understand it, right? Like, that's the penalty we pay. Sunday was supposed to be her friend. And, the one person she probably trusted the most. Maybe the reason why she didn't believe Ken in the first place. So yeah, no, it would make sense that Jessica would, be sore at her. I think though the problem, and again, we've only gotten so much of this, so we don't know if this is a thing. Maybe you don't then sabotage, the good, game that you have going of picking off millennials. And instead, you just go talk to Jessica and try and, bend things up.
Well, you have to assume that she has tried talking to her. I think it's just funny. This kind of reminds me of like when you cheat on a significant other and then you just can't trust them anymore after that.
Yeah, no, I believe it was Balderstone who pointed out, and that's it. Sunday is overwhelmed with her own guilt and culpability in that earlier vote. And it's just like, she must hate me for that because I kind of hate me for that.
Now she's got to bury the bodies so there's no more evidence.
Yeah, so I think she's taking her guilt and flipping it around to make it, she's out to get me because, and then I also like, it's like, well, it's too awkward to be around her, so, her. So it was kind of weird because it's like, really? This is what we're talking about, Jessica? And then there was also a bit of a fear. It's like, oh God, they found a way to vote out another woman.
Oh man, that felt so terrible. I was like, come on, it can't be possible. The odds are so against this.
Yeah, I was like, it's gonna happen, isn't it? And then, you see more of the episodes like, nah, okay.
Yeah.
We're okay. But I do believe, like, that wasn't just some out of left field thing. I don't even think it was completely just, the red herring. I think that's why it was placed here. But I do think it's setting up a story for future episodes.
Yeah, it's actually possible that came forward from next week's episode. Like, she might have been trying to make that move after they got rid of Taylor, and they just decided to put it in this episode as the red herring. But it will be a legit potential vote next time.
Well, she does talk about it with Jay. We do have that scene. But, I mean, Taylor's in the shot, and there's reason to believe that Jay will also be a target next week. But I do think it's legitimately might have been right now. One thing it does show is just how tenuous all this is, and, there were 4 groups of 3. There isn't a huge group right now. And those groups of 3 aren't as connected and united as you think they would be with, like, their, mirror group of 3.
Right, and even then, within those groups of 3, we don't really know how solid some of those bonds are. Also, I'm disappointed that we haven't had more of Sunday because I was really hoping to use a lot of Minnesota accent this season, and I just haven't gotten to do that.
Yeah, and when you get the secret scenes, it's so there. It's delightful. I'm not going to do it because I just always slip into SCTV Canadian accent, but it is fun.
Yeah, it is. And it's so hard to skirt the line between, is this a Fargo accent or is it Minnesota? It's all the same. It's close enough. But the one other thing I wanted to talk about before we move on is because Jessica was targeted. Hey, we actually have a reason to discuss the legacy advantage thing.
Do we?
Not really, but I really wanted to just discuss one thing because we can assume, because of that, groups of 3 thing they mentioned earlier, if and when Jessica goes, and it might be soon, that advantage, whatever it may be, because we don't know, is going to either David or Ken. We don't really know at this point for sure. She had said Ken a long time ago, but maybe that was because David wasn't around. I think if it goes to David, we can assume it goes to Ken if David then goes. I don't know if that's true if she gives it to Ken and then Ken gets booted.
Yeah, but I don't know who else Ken would give it to. Does he have, he's not giving it to Adam. Maybe Hannah? I think it's going to stay within that group, so that helps support ideas that someone in that group is the odds-on favorite to win.
Or at least the odds-on favorite to end up with that advantage. I mean, you have to get all 3 of them out before you get to, what is it, Final 4, Final 5?
I think it's 5 or 6. I mean, this gets back to why we said it was a dumb thing.
Oh, such a great advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the advantage itself. We literally have no idea what the advantage is. It's just why are you trying to pretend like we're going to remember this long? We are people who run a website and do a weekly podcast. And when you're like, are we going to talk about the legacy thing? I'm like, the legacy thing? What the heck are you talking about? And it's just this is beyond, forgetting Adam has an idol or something. This is beyond Chekhov's gun. This is Chekhov's gun if the gun can only go off at the end and not be real. It's not even worth talking about in between. This is just structurally bad TV. And I know some other shows can do this, Walt can put a poison capsule behind, the wall, and then we'll remember it 2 seasons later. But for one, they have different preview structures, and for 2, it's they do go back to it. It's oh, did he do that? No, it was actually a different kind of poison. So yeah, it's just you're forcing your audience, many of whom do not watch with the level of detail that we are, to remember still weeks from now. Oh yeah, in that first episode, that random lady found a random thing. I mean, the best case scenario for this to stay, in the conversation is that it hot potatoes throughout the game. It would have been that best case scenario would have been that Jessica did get voted out instead of Lucy. So that we saw
way early so that it started getting in play.
Yeah. So we saw at least the exchange happen. And then, if Ken gets voted out later and then another exchange happens, that keeps it as alive as a conversation piece, as a living, breathing element of the game. But as is now, it's not worth discussing, and I'm glad we're doing it.
Right. And speaking of terrible things in this game, let's talk about Hannah's skills as a captain of sports.
Oh god, it was laughable. And that's when you were saying earlier, was this a groundbreaking episode? Did, significant events happen? No, but they found the funny because her choices were ridiculous. And I think a lot of people, because again, God bless our audience, they're always going to come to the defense of a Hannah. Pointed out, it was unfair that Chris was one captain and she was other. To which, yes, absolutely.
That's very correct. Yes.
Yeah. And frankly, any team that had Chris was probably going to win this challenge.
They had an advantage, yeah, because there's a big part of the challenge that involves strength. I want to point out, they get to see the challenge beforehand, probably, before they pick their team.
Oh, not probably. Absolutely they do. Yeah. And it's so that's a disadvantage, just not having Chris. And then also that, basically how it works out is Chris is the first round draft pick of his own team and she's the first round draft pick of, her team. That's really tough.
Yeah,
right?
That sucks. Now then it only makes it worse if he also got the first pick.
Do you think he did? I'm not even sure about that.
I don't know that he did. I don't know that it was necessary judging by how the picks went.
Yeah, because like I think she made every wrong choice, and like I can understand generically, Jay is probably the best athlete out there. I'm going to take away the qualifier. Jay's the best athlete out there. Not for this challenge, he's not. I think he's like a worse pick than like 4 of the guys, and he was her best pick.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at what the challenge is going to require. You need someone that's going to be able to throw. You need someone that's small, but she's already got herself for that role.
But she didn't fulfill that role.
Exactly, and she didn't even do that. And then you need people who are going to push a big, heavy chest. There you go. There's the things you need. You don't need puzzle skills. You don't need any of that stuff. You just essentially need someone that can throw and then strong people.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not like this was close, you know? The disadvantage of Chris versus her means, okay, we probably won't win. They were destroyed because, yeah, like, Taylor didn't even have to use Taylor's strength. And I would reckon, like, Taylor is probably stronger than Jay. So like, yeah, and he was the 4th strongest male on
right. It's
team.
At least close between him and Jay. And yes, he was the least strong of that group of men.
And like, if they had somehow ever gotten that chest through, who was throwing the bolos? Hannah? Jessica? And then it's like, okay, well, no, she was being strategic. She was, she wanted to keep Jay and, Will close, and it's like, that was terrible strategy. You put all the Gen Xers together.
Right.
Except for Jessica, who I imagine is the pick you were left with.
Yeah. There's no real strategy involved in what she did. If that was a strategy, it was terrible, no matter what the intent was or the reasoning behind it.
And I will say, in her secret scene, she basically was like, I totally completely screwed that up on every level. So, yeah, she agrees with us and she recognizes it. I do like that once she saw how bad it was all going, she was kind of endearing in that moment.
Yeah.
In a way that I don't find a lot of her other, hyper spastic things endearing, like say at Tribal Council where she's hyperventilating while the conversation is going on.
Yeah, that feels a little overplayed to me.
Yeah, but this, I got it because she was also kind of just like laughing at herself for her epic failure.
Yes.
And I also like in the bonus videos, basically everybody she drafted on her team was like, man, I really wanted to be picked by Chris's team. So she thinks she's doing a favor by like keeping her friends together. They're all like, oh, why are you doing this to me, Hannah? Oh God, you keep doing it. We keep picking the wrong person. Like Zeke's like, don't pick me. I am 5 feet tall.
She's the Sacramento Kings, and everybody's just so disappointed when they get drafted by her.
So, it was hilarious. And, I wanted to talk about it because I, love questioning people's drafting skills. It's kind of a thing.
It's the main reason that we enjoyed playing fantasy basketball against each other.
Yeah, I also enjoyed it because I was really good at it and you weren't.
I was really terrible at it.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is I totally own up to being really terrible at it. Just like Hannah.
But yeah, and I can't remember who, and I apologize, but someone in our comments was like thinking cause I played out, cause they previewed this scene on Twitter, so I called it to you guys ahead. And then he laid it out what it would have been like Snake style. I was just imagining it was 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. Like Snake is even worse. You had 2 opportunities to get Brett or Taylor and you got neither? Oh my God.
Yeah. Like I said, there's just no way you can spin this that like, oh, that wasn't so bad for her. Like, give her a break. No, she didn't deserve a break. That was really terrible.
It's like you were throwing the challenge, and throwing a reward challenge is not a great idea. At this stage, later it becomes a better idea, but, when it's like, half the people out there, yeah, go enjoy your reward. So yeah, I think that's about what we got for this episode.
Let's dig into the mailbag then.
Alright, so, Rhea had a question. In fact, she had a 2-parter. The first part I was already planning on talking about, so I'm not going to credit her with that one. But the second part is, what advantages or disadvantages of trying to make a big play at Tribal Council itself versus the scrambling stage?
Well, one advantage is that it's very likely to make it on TV if you do it at Tribal Council. And, Probst is going to like you more. He'll think it's a big move and he likes to talk about those. The disadvantage is that it's far riskier and dramatically less effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think ideal scenario is to give enough people time to actually change their minds and not vote for you, if that's your goal. I think the advantage, besides what you said, but strategically is if, the big play you're going to make isn't actually that good, your best chance is to give people the least amount of time to think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're just hoping, and this is just a Hail Mary, thing, that you will engender an emotional response. Whereas if you give enough time, people will be like, okay, yeah, we can counter this move, no problem.
Yeah, and this essentially came up in one of the earliest episodes of the season where Michelle did exactly that at Tribal Council and left Hannah no time to decide, oh, am I with her or not?
Yeah, and can I rally people around Mari or whatever and get back Michaela, that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's the other, and the other scenarios is if your play is idol based, then Tribal Council might be the best way. And I don't just mean like playing the idol, but like idol trickery.
Right.
Because again, that's something where if you do it at camp, they'll beat it. You know, we know how to beat idols, right? But if it's right there in the moment, they might not. And like an example of this is like the Three Amigos play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it ended up being a bit of the wrong play, and they did end up beating it anyway, but it almost worked, right? And that's the sort of thing.
Yeah, and Mike in Worlds Apart essentially did the better version of it, and it got the result he wanted. Like, he showed where the vote was going to go.
Or it got a partial result. It didn't get the full result because, you know, they still voted out Shireen. But it, you know, Dan got 2 votes. Tyler ended up, you know, breaking some trust, and then Tyler ended up going home. So yeah, then that's just the thing. Like, if it's an idol thing that is, you almost want them to come in thinking that they can vote for you, and then you bring out your idol, and all of a sudden they have to scramble around. And maybe you don't play your idol, and maybe you can still get an effect. Whereas if it's back at camp, and it's like, hey, you're not voting for me, I got an idol. It's like, okay, well, you and I will split the votes, and he has to play it now, or he's going home.
Right.
I'm saying he because we're thinking about Mike. But yeah, I think that's, when you do it at Tribal Council, it's because, you know, it's not as good a play, and you're hoping for the best, and hoping somebody makes an emotional decision at the moment. But for the most part, you do want to give people enough time to, you know, redirect the ship, because a lot of votes are just, you know, big tankers, and they can't turn around that quickly. Even if people at Tribal Council are like, man, I'd really like to vote out Adam now. One person can't do that. You know, you need people talking.
Right.
Now, I guess in Modern Survivor, sometimes people talk at Tribal Council.
Occasionally. I mean, it's been known to actually happen at Tribal Council. It's just a lot more rare.
Yeah. So, as you're saying, you know, it's less effective, but I think the time to do it is when your play actually isn't all that good in the first place. Hail Marys.
So, question 2 from Kemper Boyd. Who is the most underrated non-winner in gameplay, not character? So many qualifiers here.
It's like, I think it's because people know our answers for these things, so they
Sure.
just have to throw little things. And also, like, you especially, you're always just gonna pick, like, big characters. I, as a robot, don't care about characters. I'll say, like, this is tough, because, a lot of the best non-winners, they're either perfectly rated or overrated, right?
I'm gonna be so pissed if you pick mine on this, by the way.
Well, then I hope I do, but I don't think I will. And the other thing is, like, the internet will celebrate practically anybody nowadays,
Yes.
right? Like, every, you know, former player on some level is like a robbed goddess, or, you know, if you come up against somebody and say that person sucked, there's going to be a fan club. Like, Troyzan has a fan club. So that makes it tough. I think what you have to do is look back on an earlier season, things that a season that, you know, maybe is not, you know, in vogue right now. And I also, Kemper pointed out, women are a good target for this. I also think it has to be somebody that's not on the internet. Because as soon as somebody starts, like, showing up on, you know, Rob has a podcast, or even, you know, Survivor Oz or something, all of a sudden people are like, they were amazing. Because, they said that actually what was happening was this, this, and this. And if you'd seen all that, you'd recognize that they were playing an amazing game. So that's what I did here. And I picked, Becky Lee in Cook Islands.
Oh, okay.
I don't think she's ever gotten the credit she needs or deserves, at least in, you know, major numbers, you know, outside of, you know, me or, you know, Emma or something.
I was going to say, I think Emma threw her some credit.
Was she, I'm not, you know, going crazy like she should have won. No. She lost because there was somebody better, but that didn't make her not good.
Right.
And I think what happens a lot in Survivor is people discredit the value of the partner. She was an equal partner in decision making and gameplay with Yule. The difference is, well, I mean, for one, men tend to get more respect in these areas. I'm not going to deny that. But also I think Yule was better at looking the part, and B, making social bonds. I feel, yeah, and it's been reported she was probably a little colder to people. So yeah, he was better than her, but she was very good. Their decisions were joint decisions, and she deserves the credit for it. And, you know, are people giving her credit now? No, because everybody's like, Cook Islands wasn't very good because, you know, Rob said so. And also because, you know, like...
Race wars.
Yeah, right, yeah, that's another one. And then, you know, she's not on the internet, so there's not like the second life of Becky Lee fans out there.
Oh yeah, I should point out that Emma was beating this drum that Becky deserved more credit and had said that Becky would beat Ozzy in Final Tribal Council. I actually asked Penner on Twitter, like, hey, just out of curiosity, how would your vote have gone in that situation? He's like, no, I would have voted for Ozzy. So, you know, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean she was a bad player. I think that just in that situation, he would have been more impressed with Ozzy's game. But I think she's a worthy candidate. And actually, she is very similar to the person that I was initially going to pick, which is Dawn. Dawn, same sort of situation. Like I don't think there's a way that Cochran wins without Dawn and Caramoan. She does all the things that he cannot do and gets penalized for doing those things in a way that he doesn't. She didn't enjoy doing those things and she cried a lot about it, but she did all of them. But instead, I'm going to go with a slightly hotter take here and say Malcolm, because somehow Malcolm has become this like dismissed, like, oh, he was Joe before Joe. You know, he was the one that all the Facebook people love. All the 12-year-old girls love him. You know, Malcolm was a really good player. Like he, as we've brought up many times, he took Reynolds' idol and then voted for him.
And then got Reynolds to be on his team, like, right away after
Immediately after. I mean, 24 hours later, Reynolds right back in that camp. Like, what can we do, buddy? Let's work together again.
Yeah, and I like that take, because yeah, suddenly, like, there's this anti-Malcolm stuff, like, dude, he's like, not only is, he really good at playing Survivor, he's really entertaining. And it's like because everybody has, like, this take of like, oh, that Three Amigos stuff, it was all for show, it wasn't good gameplay. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, some of it was more show, it wasn't as effective, but, you know, constraints and stuff is a thing. He, you know, could only do so much in the amount of time and the things that he was dealing with. So yeah, I kind of like that. I think under that, I should be like Boston Rob, man. But no, he's a winner, so anyway.
Yeah, that was my initial answer for you, was Boston Rob right before Redemption Island. Any point up until Redemption Island, the answer is Boston Rob.
That's right, because, you know, nobody wants to say it. And also, you know, I gotta live the gimmick. I think on Dawn, I do think you have a real point that, like, she doesn't get the credit for the things she does well that she should. I do think that, like, enough people have been saying that it's almost becoming the other way.
Yeah, that's why she ended up not being my vote, because I think she has gotten some of that support.
Yeah, and I also think, like, it's almost become, like, the counter argument, and maybe just in some of the circles we run in, right?
Yes.
That she's starting to become overrated, because, like, her flaws are real, right? Like, those are real things that, like, you can't win when you lean on other people for emotional support, because they feel like, like, they just feel, they get angry, right? They get it, for one, they get angry that you're the greater betrayal. Obviously, so much about that is gendered and everything else.
Sure.
But it's also like, you know, like, I comforted you for 2 hours while you cried, and now I'm supposed to be happy that you beat me? That's just, you know, you need some greater level of control. These are the social dynamics. So, like, that flaw is real. And I suppose the counter argument is, you know, maybe Becky's lack of warmth is also real.
It's just more relatable to us.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, you know, I worry that people have been saying she's so underrated because for a while, especially during Caramoan, you know, she's the devil and she's terrible. And oh my God, there goes Dawn crying again. That they weren't recognizing that, you know, she delivered the win to Cochran.
Yep.
But, you know, to Cochran's credit, you know, he probably recognized her flaws and is like, I can use her and not worry about her beating me. All right. So, next we've got a question from Diego Armando. It's, what are your most and least favorite immunity and reward challenges? And related to this, can Survivor make you too, me and John, care about challenges?
My favorite challenges used to be the ones where you just get to crap on everyone else that's left in the game. And they ask you, like, who thinks they're running the game?
The burn book.
Who is actually the least trustworthy, blah, blah, blah. Those were the best. And those idiots in San Juan del Sur ruined it. And it's probably not coming back again.
Well, that is very you. I don't have a big favorite and a least favorite. I'll say one thing I was thinking of. I think I like puzzles that are physically demanding. Because it combines the two things and it's a little more interesting than two somebody's, moving stuff around at a table. And these would obviously, like, from a group perspective. Like, when you have to, like, move a bunch of blocks to form something and still make the puzzle, I think there's interest in that. Maybe I'm just into those because Boston Rob excels at them.
That's what I was just gonna suggest, is that was your reasoning.
I mean, I had to think of something because I don't think about these things.
So, least favorite for me would be anything blindfolded, walk around and pick something up. Like, people always run into things. There was one in Cambodia where I legit thought, like, oh my god, I think Spencer's leg is going to be broken. Like, just if you watch the slow motion replay, like, his leg bends in a way that's not natural. Like, I thought he was legitimately going to be injured, and he walked it off. He was fine, but I don't really want to see people getting hurt.
Yeah, I'm right there. And this has obviously become Rob's bailiwick. Although I'm not sure if you're even aware of that.
I'm not aware.
I agree. And I will say with a caveat, because they did a blindfold challenge this season that wasn't so bad. It's like, I understand, like, the payoff that they want, that it's interesting to see the caller trying to direct people. But that has led to some good things. The point that Rob makes is that's probably not worth the potential danger.
Right.
Because, that's the thing. I don't like to see people almost get hurt on this show. It's not what I'm into. So I think what you have to do, if you're going to do this, is you just can't make it so dangerous. Like, the Cambodian one was dangerous. The one in Micronesia, like, took people out of the game. That wasn't, directing, but it was a blindfolded thing.
Right.
So if you're gonna do it, you need to have a course that isn't so full of, obstacles. Like, the obstacles are, like, let me feel around, and I might bump into a few things, or bump into a person, but I'm not gonna get smashed in the face or the knee with a big, heavy, object. Because, like, even when they just did blindfolded, like, people pulling a pulley, Kelly Remington was bleeding like a stuck pig. So, if you're gonna do the blind thing, because it's funny seeing people walk around, not know what they're doing, and, having somebody yell at them, and, that stuff, it can't be dangerous, or you limit the danger. So then, they're trying to navigate a puzzle. I think that's interesting to some degree, trying to direct people to do a puzzle, or like navigate like a maze with a ball, blindfolded. But the danger, is just so that we can have some slapsticky, oh, look at them protecting their balls. That's not worth the trouble. Well, the second part of his question, what can they do to make us care about challenges? Like, it's not that I don't care. While they're on, I'm watching, I'm interested. It's just, they don't stick for me, for one. For two, they're just not interesting to talk about. It's just like, hey, people, performed at a thing, and some people were better and not. Mostly to make me care is, have something funny happen during it. Then we'll talk about it, we care.
Yeah, I mean, there are some challenges that I enjoy that are fun to watch. I just, it's partially dependent too on, is there any inherent drama? Like, does it matter who wins? All right, so let's do predictions for next week, where we get 2 episodes, by the way.
Yeah, and so I'm not making this easy. You don't get to just pick 2 people. You gotta pick the order. Just like going into the finals, you gotta pick 5th, 4th, 3rd place. So I think the first boot is, I'm gonna roll back my Adam prediction. I based that on edit reasons, that I felt like the edit was leading us somewhere that Taylor was gonna get the best of Adam. In this way, I kinda still feel like he almost did. He's going out before him, obviously. He lost in that suspense, but I think he destroyed him. And I think people are just going to be like, let's just get rid of this guy and deal with the consequences after. Because, they don't want to lose their reward. They don't trust him at all. So I think Adam's that will be the first to go.
All right. My first pick will be Jessica. I say she goes home in the first episode. I think that was a legit setup in this episode, and it's going to happen next.
Yeah, so I do think it's legitimate. I just don't think Sunday can pull the trigger yet. Like, I'm not sure where the votes are to get rid of Jessica.
I think the Millennials are willing to get rid of Gen Xers.
So, like, you think all 4 millennials join up with those 3 Gen Xers?
She doesn't even necessarily need all 4 of them. So if she just...
She needs more than 3, though. Or she needs more than 2, right?
I was just going to say, if she can get the plurality of them, she'd be fine.
But, yeah, I mean, the point why I don't think it'd be her first is that Jay and Will aren't enough. That's only 5 with her group, and there's 6 other people on the other side. So it would need to be Jay, Will, and Zeke. Or Zeke, Hannah, and Jay, or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is they get the plurality of the people left, and they should be good. And I think they can do that for at least 1 vote.
Yeah, and see, I don't think they can. That's why I have Adam first. And then I think it goes, and this is when the story comes in, is that Sunday makes her move on Jessica then, now that the other side wouldn't have 6, now that Adam is taken out of there. So it's not, it can't be Zeke, Adam, Hannah, Ken, Jessica, David. However, I think then the millennials exploit this obvious crack in the Gen Xers and make their move instead. And that move isn't to get rid of Jessica, and I'll say it isn't even to get rid of Sunday. They use Sundays and all that groups voting for Jessica and instead take out Chris.
Not a bad pick, because I actually considered that one for mine. But I'm just going to go back to the much more predictable route, and I'll say that that's when they end up getting Jay.
So you think he already played his idol the week before?
Yes.
Before that?
Yeah, I'm thinking that they make him play the idol in the Jessica Boot episode, and then they ended up getting him the next episode.
Yeah, and I think there's a chance of that. I think one of the reasons why you target Adam is you don't actually need to vote somebody to flush their idol. You just need to think you are voting for them.
Right.
So they lay it on Jay, but they don't need to split the vote. They make Jay think he's going to play, that he needs to play his idol, and everybody just votes for Adam instead. And there's no risk then.
Unless Adam also plays his idol.
Which an idol nobody knows about, right?
Right.
That's the one thing he seems to be tight-lipped about so far.
Yeah, give him time. Give him the first 30 minutes of next week.
Because the other thing we saw in the preview is Will spilling the beans about Jay's idol left and right.
Yes.
Which you thought was hilarious.
I did. I love that we get the game of telephone. Again, so well done. I mean, they have 7 seconds to set you up with a preview of next week, and they killed it. So good.
I will say, my reaction after seeing that, besides, that was hilarious, is, what are you doing, Will? If now they're worried about Jay's, idol, aren't you the most likely, person to split the vote with?
Well, only if they're sticking to the strategy of taking out all of that group.
Yeah. And my thought is, I don't think they are. I think that group now is less dangerous because they have 2.
Right.
And all the other groups have 3. So
Yes.
now it's time to use Jay and use Will. And I think that's where the conversations between Jay and Hannah and Jay and Sunday will come in.
Exactly.
I just don't think, I think Sunday will still try to get Jessica out in the first episode, but won't be able to. And that's where I'm going. All right. So every week, we also like to do one conversation that has nothing to do with Survivor because you guys seem to like it. And so, last week, Black Dynamite asked us what our favorite Pixar film is. And, do you watch movies, John?
I don't anymore, but I love animated movies, and Pixar especially is really, really good. I will say though, quick qualifier before I answer, I'm very behind on Pixar because I no longer watch movies. But I have seen, so I've missed, Brave. I did not see, Inside Out? And there's, I think, one more recent one. I think Good Dinosaur. I did not see.
And probably Finding Dory as well.
Well, yes, Finding Dory, but that's actually is something I could potentially see soon, but I have not yet. I'm assuming you've seen all of them.
Many, many, many times.
Right.
I just watched one yesterday.
Well, yeah, my answer then will be Up, because it's so well done. It's got it's funny, it's sweet, it's a little bit sad, it's just a well-told story, it's so damn pretty looking. And then plus, I think the first time I saw it was right after I had gotten a puppy, and the talking dogs was like, oh man, whoever wrote this is clearly a dog owner, because they captured the experience very well of what seems to be running through dogs' heads all the time. The one thing, I'm not going to pick this obviously because I picked Up, but Bug's Life is really underrated. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I think like the common criticism with Up and WALL-E is like, oh, the opening scenes are so dynamite, nothing can match that. And I hate those criticisms because it feels like that's people who are like old and like want the movies to be for them. It's like, yeah, you're right. That stuff with like a boy on a grand adventure and talking dogs is so just dumb. These are still, as artful and as amazing as they are, movies for kids and families.
Yes.
It's like, oh, WALL-E was so great when it was silent, but then once it was wacky robot adventures, you mean what, when it was a movie that might interest children?
Right.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Yeah, the thing that might actually keep kids watching past the first 10 minutes that were relatively boring if you're not an adult.
Yeah, it's like, why couldn't Up be all about the sorrow of a man losing the love of his life?
Why don't kids just want to cry for 2 hours?
It's like those things obviously elevate Pixar movies. Probably one of the reasons why Bug's Life, as you say, is underrated is because it doesn't have that, heart-pulling moment.
Right.
But no, it's like, it's a talking dog! So in that respect, so I love Up as well. But my choice is The Incredibles. It's pretty simple. I love superheroes. And it's probably the best superhero movie ever. It's the best.
I really thought you were going to go with Inside Out.
No, it was good when they had the emotional parts, but the rest of the stuff with talking feelings. It's the best Fantastic Four adaptation there's ever been. It's the best, take on the Watchmen that's ever been. I love the family dynamics. It's a great family film.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many great just little moments that are both, play to me, as a superhero fan, play to me as a family man, play to me as a fan of action adventure. The common criticism of this comes from, people like, oh, it's just Brandian philosophy, which, no. Calm your roll, people. They're not suggesting because they're supers, they, are better and thus are entitled to, a higher life. The message is that, some people are extraordinary in certain ways and we can celebrate that instead of making everybody the same. And I actually really like that, which will come as a great shock to somebody, to listeners, and my, the way I analyze things, I was like, no, people that suck and people that are great are great. But mostly, it's just, I've probably watched it a billion times, especially because I have two hero loving, children as well. So Incredibles is the right answer. But honestly, as some other people have said, you can pick about 6 or 7 films.
Right. You're not going to get a lot of argument when you suggest, unless you're like, oh, Cars 2 is the winner.
Or Cars at all.
Or Cars,
I think there's a tier of like, these are the ones that aren't so good. There's a tier of, these are good, but not so, not, the best. Which, I'll throw this hot fire. Brave is definitely in the, it's okay, category. But there's 7. Like, if you want to tell me that your favorite is WALL-E, sure, great. I believe you. Any of the Toy Stories? Absolutely.
Sure.
Ratatouille? Right there. So do that in our comments. Tell us what your favorite was and why. And, you can do that on our website.
And that's at purplerockpodcast.com. You can also tell us on Twitter if you really want to. The show is at Purple Rock Pod. I'm at Purple Rock John.
I am Purple Rock Andy. The show is on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. If you'd like to send us an email for a future question, you can do so, purplerockpodcast@gmail.com.
And on that note, let's play some music for you millennials out there.